Okay, so as always, welcome to the next portion of this curriculum. We're going to be going over backups, in particular, our server backups and network backups, and make sure that we can get back up and running as quickly as possible if something happened to one of our pieces of equipment. So as always, we're going to have to go over a few of those concepts so you actually understand what we're doing, and then we will go over how to actually do it. Today we'll be doing a full backup, and we're going to do a bare metal backup as well. More than likely, you guys have done file backups in the past, so we're just going to assume that you've done that and we don't necessarily have to go over it, but we do need to go over how to do a bare metal backup. So with that said, let's get into some of those concepts. So file backup, this is what you're used to doing. So this is how either a piece of software or you physically do it yourself, where you store a backup of your files onto a separate drive, separate place, or whatever it is. It's a backup that reduces your risk of file loss. The other way you can look at this is local redundancy. So this would be some sort of a RAID configuration. Lately, that's going to be a software RAID configuration. ZFS is a popular option. ButterFS is coming up as well. For the most part, especially with your higher speed drives, you're not going to be using a RAID controller. A hardware RAID controller is quite literally just a small computer on a PCIe card. And when you get into those faster devices, it's not going to keep up. It's not practical. So we use software RAID for the most part these days. But if you're in a legacy environment, it is very possible that you're going to run into hardware RAID cards eventually. So moving on to block level backups, this is quite literally taking an entire snapshot of the PC itself, and then when you restore from that PC or restore from that snapshot or that backup, every single setting that you had on that PC is restored. So this is different from the file backup because, well, you get everything back instead of just files and documents and videos. All right. All right, so moving on to backup types, we're going to go over the pros and cons and all of these right quick like, but we need to start with what they are. First of all, we have your full backup, which we're going to be doing today. You have incremental backups, you have differential backups, and then you also have copy backups as well. So let's get into the pros and cons on these. Full backup. Pros, hey, it's block level. Any setting that you had on that PC, you can restore, and then you're going to be back up and running in very little time relative to if you had to reinstall all your updates and reinstall all your settings and roles and features and make sure all your users are actually on there. So that saves you tons of time. Note that shadow copy has to be enabled for this to work properly. And the reason for that is because if you don't have shadow copy enabled, whatever block is being used at that time is going to get skipped over. So you need shadow copy to be enabled so you can actually get a copy of whatever block or sector that you're trying to mirror as you're using it. So there's no need to shut down a server just to mirror a disk. Okay, cons can take a long time, particularly if it's a big server, and then you need a lot of space, particularly if you have a lot of servers on the network, because then you're going to have a mirror of all your servers. So it takes up a lot of space, and therefore it's more expensive. Right. So moving on to incremental backup, it's a little bit faster because of smaller file sizes. You're not doing a full backup every single day. It uses less space. Throughout the week, it uses less space. Okay. And then all the backups, in terms of cons, all the backups need to be free of corruption. So what this is saying is that, okay, we make a new file every single time we do an incremental backup, but if any one of those files is corrupted, then that backup from the entire week or month you're doing your incremental scheduling on, you don't have access to anymore because one of those is corrupted. So in theory, and this is not nearly as secure. The other problem is that because you have so many little files, so many little backups, it's harder to organize as well, particularly if you're trying to get the right order of particular backups. So you're going to be very reliant on timestamps, but it is harder to manage overall. So one of the ways around this is your differential backup. It takes a very similar concept, but instead of having individual incremental files, it just changes, hey, whatever changed, and then it gets appended to one file instead of multiple for each day or whatever that schedule is. Okay, so it still takes up less space, is a little easier to manage, but as time goes on, whatever that schedule is, the longer those backups take because your file keeps getting bigger. All right. Copy backups, these are your typical file backups, easy to set up, typically free. If you're going to use software, you can do it in Windows as well. Or if you're using something like Linux, you can use rsync, and it's completely script oriented, so you wouldn't have to worry about that either. There's probably a PowerShell solution as well, I'm just not aware of it. And then the major downfall is it's files only, so if you're not necessarily worried about your settings, this might be a reasonable solution for you. Okay, so now we're going to go over the picture format of what things should be looking like. One of the things that we're going to have to go over is in VirtualBox itself, we're going to have to change some settings and add another disk. So with that said, we need to turn on Shadow Copy first. So whatever you need to go to, obviously you need to go to Properties, Shadow Copy. You need to do it on the active disk. Okay. Go to C drive, right? Most of the time that's going to be your active disk. Okay, enable. Okay, and then we're going to install a feature, Windows Server Backup. Okay, and now we can actually make a backup. So we'll go to Tools, Windows Server Backup, Local Backup, Backup Schedule. All right, choose your options. I'm going to do a full bare metal backup, so full server. Okay, set backup time. We're going to do this once, so we don't have to worry about the schedule or wait for the schedule to be true. So this is how you would do it. You go to a specified time, one a day or more than one a day, 7 p.m., 8, 9, whatever it is. Make sure you give yourself enough time so it can actually finish throughout the night if you have a bigger server. But make sure it's also after hours as well when no one's going to be there. Okay, back up the hard disk. So we're going to give it a virtual disk to simulate this. You can do it to a network share as well. A couple more configuration steps for this, but we're going to be doing a disk. All right, select the disk that is available. Okay, again, backup times if you're going to do that, but just make sure that your settings are correct, and then you're going to hit finish here. And then it will take a little bit of time to do that mirror, but we're going to show you how to do that right now. So let's go ahead and minimize this. Okay, so there's that. Let's go over here. So let's go over here, settings. We're going to need a new disk. So make sure your SATA controller is active. Oh, we're going to have to turn this off. So bang, come on, power off. Okay, settings, storage, new disk. We're going to create a new disk, a new virtual disk. That is fine. Dynamically allocated is also fine. We'll do another 50 gigs. Let's go ahead and change this to server mirror. Okay, because we're going to need this here in a few minutes to restore from. That's going to be a different video, but it is going to be needed. So you might not need 50 gigs here, and because it's dynamically allocated, it's not going to take up any extra disk space, but if you're worried about it, you can go down. It took about 20 gigs last time, but this one could be bigger, or your use case could be bigger. So we're going to use server mirror. We're going to choose. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to turn this back on. Okay, I guess we're coming up here. Okay, that can go away. All right, now that we're back in, let's go ahead and hit this Control-Alt-Delete. We're going to sign in. Here we go. We're going to wait for Server Manager to come up. We're going to minimize it because we're going to need it later. We're going to cancel this. I'm going to pull this up so you can actually see it. Okay, so the first thing that we got to do is make sure that Shadow Copy is on. So we're going to come down here to File Explorer. We're going to come over here to PC. We're going to right click on our disk here. And I'm noticing that I do not see our mirror disk. So I'm going to troubleshoot that real quick. Shadow copies. We're going to enable here. Go ahead. Done. Okay, so now we need to go find what is happening with that disk. So I'm going to right click on the Windows icon here, and we're going to go to Disk Management. Okay, MBR, that's fine. Unallocated, that is also fine. We're going to give it a new symbol volume here. Let's change this to M for mirror. Okay. Mirror, quick format, which is what we want. Okay. Let's come back to File Explorer, make sure that we actually have that disk, and it's right there, 50 gigs as well. So that is squared away. We are going to pull up Server Manager now. Oh, wrong thing. Here we go. Okay, add roles and features. We're going to come down here to Server again. We're going to come down to Windows Backup. Okay, maybe it's already installed. Windows Server Backup. Okay, oh. Let's come over here. Local Backup. Windows Server Backup is not installed on this PC. Okay. Add rules and features and follow the wizard. I wasn't looking for it. Where'd it go? Select. Windows Server Backup feature. Okay, so we're going to minimize this. We're going to come back here. Installation type, role, server. Come down here to Windows. Windows Update, Windows Essential Services, Windows Deployment. Huh. Okay. Windows Server Backup, and this is directly under Windows Search. It's a feature and not a role. So that was my mistake. Here we go, Windows Server Backup. Okay, we're going to install. Again, this shouldn't take that long. can get rid of that. Windows Server Backup. Local backup. Come on, come on, come on. Okay. Here we go. We're going to backup once over here instead of backup schedule. Backup once. Okay, different options. Next. Full server. This is saying that it's going to take about 12 gigs. All right. Local drives. Okay, we're looking for that mirror drive. Mirror M. All right. Okay, so what that last screen was telling me, do you want to exclude that drive as a backup? And I do, because we're using it for the backup disk. So we're going to backup now. Okay. So this is going to take a little bit. Now at 12 gigs, it might not take that long. However, if you get into the 500 gigabyte range, this is going to take a little while. So as you can see, we have data transferred. So I would say within the next minute, this is going to be done, but this process can take a long time. Okay, so that process is done now. Okay, we're going to close this, close this. So at this point, we are ready to restore with that backup. However, I'm going to do that in a different video because there's going to be a little bit of setup to do on VirtualBox to simulate a broken server. So I'm going to wait for that next video. So with that said, if you have any questions, let me know. And then if not, I'll see you in the next video.